hello friends. Welcome to another Friday live stream. Great to have you guys here today. Let me know in the chat where you are watching from in this great wide world. Happy to have you on for another awesome time as we get to jump in and review some live streams, answer any tech media questions, worship leading questions you guys have. And today is a special one because we've got Sheppard coming on from Elevation in just a little bit to review some of your live streams that you've submitted previously. There is still time if you want to submit your live stream. You can do that with the link in the description. Just gonna be honest with you, there is already 30 that are sitting there waiting to be reviewed on top of the ones we're already gonna review with Steven. So if you want it today, you're gonna have to use that fastpass Superchat function. So just know that that is an option as well. We got 4 minutes, we're gonna be hopping in. Let's just see who is joining us. And let me know in the chat if everything's sounding good, looking good today on your end. We've got Nathan from Phoenix hopping on the live stream today. As always, Fam TV, come on, from Milan, Tennessee. Appreciate you guys, faithful viewers there. Tobias, what's up? Another one that's always here, man. I love it. Appreciate you coming on from Germany, representing. Uh-oh. Jake's in the house. You didn't make it the last few times, so glad you're here today, dude. Your stream is looking good. Love the new, are you using, is this the S5s that you're implementing now? But they look really good. So I don't know if you submitted or not, but we email. Yeah, man. Oh, so we got Germany, and then we got Brian just down the road from me here in Oklahoma, up here in Green Country, Oklahoma. And Brian is a salty guitar player. And actually, Brian, you're on the live stream review that Steven's going to be looking at later this morning. So you will be making an appearance. You didn't know that. So hopefully your NIL money is not too high of a fee for me this morning, because I did not actually ask you for permission. So, but thanks for hopping on the live stream today, man. Okay, Jake says that they're rocking the S5 IIXs. So actually, what you're looking at right now is a Panasonic S5 II that I picked up on eBay a couple weeks ago for $1,400. And yeah, it's been really interesting to compare it to all of my other Panasonic GH cameras. I mean, full frame is great, you know, it's tasty, it's good. I had to adjust some latency things on this camera that you might, I don't know if you have this, Jake, but if you turn off the HDMI audio output of the S5 II, it actually makes the latency go down quite a bit to where it matches my other cameras. The latency on it was pretty horrible though. You'll see it in the video. First side shot we were using it for was not a big deal, but yeah. So, Brian. Nick from Jersey. Awesome. Does that offend you when people do that? I'm sorry. The PD is outstanding. The rolling shutter, not so much. I think he means, yeah, the 5D Mark. Yeah, the S5, yeah. Yeah, rolling shutter is pretty bad on it, I will say. And maybe that's something we can talk about, is how big a deal is rolling shutter for us in our live streams, in our churches, when we're picking which camera to use. Nobody's told me it sounds bad or anything looks bad, so I'm assuming audio is crispy today, everything's working well, and so we're just gonna roll with it. You know, it wouldn't be a live stream if something didn't go wrong, so we'll probably anticipate the gremlins coming out to play at some point, but right now we're gonna just name and claim that this live stream is gonna go without any problems today. Just like, you know, a minute left on the church countdown, somebody's running up to you and they're saying, Pastor's mic pack, his battery's dead. And then you're just hustling, you know, trying to get it all to work. But it's gonna be a good day. Glad you guys are here. Is that a gobo on the wall? It is. That is a Aperture, I don't remember, 60D or something, with a little gobo holder in it. So, you know, you gotta play the YouTube game here, get it dialed in. All right, 10 seconds, friends. Here we go. Well, welcome back to another Friday live stream, guys. So glad that you're here with us today and hopping on from all over the world. It's so cool to see and talk and visit and chat with you guys because we're all doing the same thing, right? We're all in the same grind together, but just in the local places where God has placed us. And so the point of today's live stream is to, equip, encourage, and just some like iron sharpening iron type stuff today. So here in just a moment, we're going to be bringing on Stephen from Elevation, and I'm excited to just glean his wisdom, and really just chat about like what is life like at Elevation and running things there in the broadcast area, and review a few of your live streams together. If you have a specific question for either of us today, drop that in the chat and I'll kind of flag it. And if we have a moment, we'll pop into those questions, maybe between live stream review sessions. There's lots of stuff that's been happening in the tech world for churches that we can talk about maybe in our second hour together. And so without further ado, though, I'd like to bring on our guest for today, Mr. Stephen Sheppard. So everybody in the chat, give him a big hand. Let's go.
Guys? Thank you.
How are you? How you feeling?
Man, it's a great day, dude.
Dude, absolutely.
Thanks so much for being on the live stream today, man. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, 100%. I'm super excited. I love what you said about this being in a space where iron sharpens iron. I think for me, that's like one of my biggest things being in the role that I'm in right now is I am always consistently trying to learn and grow and get better. And so I love what you're doing in this space. I think it's really, really cool. And I'm excited to be able to jump in and help contribute a little bit to it today. And hopefully we all get a little bit out of this and at the end of the day are better for it. So
absolutely, dude. So tell everybody, if they're not familiar with you, kind of like what your role is at Elevation and maybe kind of how you got to that point, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So currently at Elevation, I am the broadcast engineer over there. So I oversee our broadcast facility. We have 19 total campuses, and I oversee the campus that sends the sermon out into the world via YouTube, live streams, all that kind of stuff, which is a lot of fun. And I've been in the role for about 6-ish months now, just over 6 months.
Oh, really?
And so
I didn't
fresh.
realize it was that fresh.
Yeah, pretty fresh. I've had an incredible opportunity to learn under some really, really talented guys, and but I've been at Elevation Church since 2009. So I've been a part of the church for over, if my math is mathing, 15 years, I believe that is. And so I'm born and raised Charlotte, North Carolina. So Elevation has kind of been my home. It's been the church that I grew up in. And so I've had kind of a crazy story. So I came on staff back in 2016. I helped launch our Melbourne, Florida campus down in Florida. And then I went on for a couple years. I launched a campus in Morrisville, North Carolina. I actually ended up leaving staff. So I kind of had this interesting transitional season where I had just been recently married and we ended up leaving staff. We moved to Houston, Texas. I was the broadcast engineer at Hope City Church in Houston for a couple years. And then just over 2 years ago, just felt like it was time to move back home, and we moved back. I was on our campus AVL team for a short season, and then jumped over to our broadcast facility for the past about a year. But I've been in my role for 6 months. So
nice.
I guess the short form condensed version, because there's so much you can dive into in each every season. But yeah.
So are you like self-taught, or are you just kind of somebody who was mentored through the church, AVL stuff and been on serving teams and that kind of thing? Or what did you do?
Yeah, so I never actually ended up going to school for production and technology, which so many people have asked me before, like, hey, I want to learn more. What school should I go to? What program should I do? And truthfully, I've learned everything I know in and through the church, whether that is, from live streaming to video directing, audio, lighting, building different sets, like everything for the most part, producing, leading volunteers. Everything I've learned and known has kind of been in and through the church and just being connected to different parts and people in and throughout. And I've always believed, I think my biggest thing is I've always believed in hard work. I've always believed in continuing to put myself in a position where I'm forced to work hard, because I feel like a lot of times whether you're under, every single one of us have been under pressure at some point in time when it comes to production. But I feel like for me, it's just always been that underlying tone of working hard, but then also just allowing God to use me in every season that I'm in, and learning to trust him and grow with him as I'm going. And so But yeah, church.
Man,
Church has been the thing. Church has been the place where I've learned just about everything.
that's super encouraging. Like, I think that resonates with so many guys. Like, for me, I'm pretty much a YouTube university guy. That's how I got into this role. I was a full-time media director before I came on staff here as worship and media. And I was like just traveling around doing music. And the guy who hired me there was like, I was like, media director. And he's like, you'll figure it out. And so then I'm like, just like Googling, like, how do I do these things? And I think that's so many guys. So it's encouraging to hear, like, yeah, hard work does pay off. And just the church is a training ground. And I think that so many guys like you are in that season of like, okay, God, what are you doing with me? And how can I come alongside you and do ministry? So you've been doing your stuff there for a few months now. I'm always curious to hear, like, what has been an ope moment in services? Has there been any worship fails, or like, what's the most chaotic thing that's happened? Has there been anything where you look back and it sticks out in your mind?
Well, there's always chaos. Chaos is a part of what we do, right? But what I love is that our team is really professional. I think it's not about like what fails or chaos you go through. It's how you respond to it. I think that is like the number one way or thing that you can try to train is the muscle of response, right? But no, there's so many things. I think one of the first weekends that I was in my role, I had updated a piece of gear and it, tested everything, made sure that everything would be working properly. And then the 9:30 experience starts, church starts, the live stream is rolling, and all of a sudden, every single one of the cameras, every 2.5 minutes, starts losing reference and catching reference again. And I just remember like sitting there like, what is going on? What is happening? And it took about 30 minutes. And looking back, I had a solution that could have been way faster, but it took about 30 minutes of me calling previous guys who had been in my role. Like, hey, what's a solution? How can I, what did I do? And you're kind of in that moment where you're just like, oh my gosh, sweating bullets, all that kind of stuff, and trying to remain calm vocally and direct the traffic, if you will. But that's one of those things where, for me, it was one of the first big, like, oh my goodness, like this is huge, right? And I think Pastor had like just started preaching or something. It was when we got it fixed. So it was like all throughout worship. You just got the cameras just like blip, 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 blip. So that was super fun, but it was terrifying. But at the same time, it was one of the things that pushed me the hardest to actually learn, where does this cable go? How is this plugged into here? How does this work? And literally like whiteboard everything out and figure out exactly, and start doing some drawing stuff. But it was one of the things that really truly pushed me to say, okay, wait, pause. I need to know this system like the back of my hand. I need to know why certain things are happening the way they're happening. So for me, I know that failure is somewhat a part of the game. Obviously, you don't want to fail. It's never something that we're looking forward to. But I've learned enough at this point to where every single time that I do fail or something does go wrong, there's always an opportunity to learn and grow from it. And so that's what I always try to glean from it. And, it's also scary too, because if you think about it, like, I've got a supervisor, my supervisor's got a supervisor, and eventually you get to our pastor, right? And so just knowing that, like, man, the weight of what we carry too, not many people are going to see the good things that happen and the good job, if it happens, great, it happens, great. But I think sometimes shouldering the burden of like, hey, when something goes wrong, I have to take responsibility for it. I have to say, hey, it was on me, or this is what happened, or I have to be able to explain it in a calm, level-headed manner that, provides confidence to them, that they know, like, oh, okay, like this guy's actually going to figure it out, not just saying, I don't know what happened, because there's that medium there. But yeah, that was one of the scariest moments for me, at least starting out in this role.
Dude, I can't imagine. Like, I freak out, and there's only 50 people watching our live stream, So
I try not to think. It's so funny. I really try not to think about how many people are watching. I just try to. I know that there are people watching, and I know that there are people watching who need Jesus and who need the gospel. And so that's the lens that I try to view it from, whether it's one person, because even like staff streams, like I still feel the weight and the pressure of like, oh man, I want this staff stream to feel really good, because we have a lot of staff who are even, in different parts of the country. And, I don't want them to have to watch just a Zoom that's like poor quality audio or something like that. So whether it's 100,000 people or 100 people or 10 people, I think if you apply the same kind of pressure and metrics, I guess, if you will, to each and every single one of them, then you'll be fine. You'll be fine at 10. You'll be fine at 100,000. You know what I mean? It's kind of so.
That's great, man. Well, I think something that probably a lot of my audience is curious about is just what is y'all's setup for your main campus broadcast? Like, are y'all implementing any new technology? What kind of cameras are you using? How many operators do you have? Can you give us just like a bird's eye view of that?
Yeah, so we are a Ross house. So we do everything Ross, which they've been wonderful to work with. We do Ross for everything video switching, and then we do Everts for everything routing. And so that's just been the way that we've actually had a lot of that gear since we launched Valentine about almost 7 years ago. I think it was 2016. And so, which that's 8 years ago, 8 years ago. And so we're Ross Everts is kind of like our main thing. And then we're running Panasonic Vericams for all of our main cameras with Fuji glass. And then we've got a couple of EVA 1 just because they're in the same family as the Vericam. And then those two guys have Sigma lens, and then also I believe we have one Canon lens, which is on our tower cam. So recently, in terms of upgrades and updates and all that kind of stuff, recently we just got rid of our tower cam, and I've got something exciting that I can't talk about yet, but we do have something exciting that we're putting in very soon within the next week or so that we're really, really excited about. But then also recently we just got a Defy track, which has been really, really cool. We've always had some form of a dolly shot on house left towards the stage right side of the stage. And so we really loved the Defy track because of the footprint that it had and the flexibility that was there. We used to have Pee Wee Dolly, which was just a much bigger footprint and took up a lot of space. And in auditoriums, you want to utilize and work with guest experience and work with the flow of the auditorium as much as you can. So they were very, very happy with that. We've got a jib in the back of the room, two cameras on easy rigs. Camera 1 and 2 are just our main cameras. Actually, in the middle of the room, we recently did that about a year ago. It's in the middle of the room with camera 2 just in front of it. We've got a total of 8 cameras that we run for broadcast, and then another 2 to 4, depending on the weekend, that we run for our online pre-experience and online hosting as well. Okay. So that's everything in terms of video and cameras.
Gotcha. 2 questions.
Yep.
For the Defy track, are you putting your own cameras on, like a Vericam on there, or are you using one of their systems that they have for it?
Yep. So they've got the EX250, which is they've got a Sony camera that goes on the 250, but we got the 350 so that we can put our own camera on it, and it's a Vericam. Yeah.
Cool. And then I assume that y'all are doing a separate in-house IMAG cut versus broadcast cut?
Yep.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah,
not
we're just
everybody
using, for sure. We're just using a different a separate ME on the switcher, and we've got a separate team. The way our production teams are built out, we've got an online production team, and then we've got a Valentine production team, and so we've got 2 different production directors, 2 different teams that are working together essentially to cut for online and in the room.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys aren't familiar with Steven, I mean, I think most of us probably ran across his Instagram content. And let's see, over here we've got quite the stuff going on. Can you talk to us about Go Podium? It's kind of become its own little animal. What's the deal with Go Podium?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was really funny. I have always enjoyed creating content, and I feel like just recently having been in this role has been just a really fun and expressive way to show what we do a little bit. And so Go Podium is something that we do every single week. Well, every single time there's a podium involved in preaching. If not, there's a table, and so we say Go Table. But the principle of Go Podium, the way I like to see it, is it seems like a very mundane, simple thing that we would do, right? However, I like to try to put vision and culture and clarity behind what we do, right? I think that's just such an important task for many of us as leaders, is to have vision in front of our teams. And so for Go Podium, it's really about every single time we send the podium, we're preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so, what may feel like something, I'm just carrying out this podium or doing this thing that I do every single week, just know that there's weight behind it, there's a purpose behind it, there's reasoning behind it. And so it's kind of come from this Go Podium, maybe a little bit of a silly, cheesy thing, to now kind of Go Podium. Every single time this podium goes out, we send it at a very specific time. We plan for it. We prepare for it. The teams, our volunteers plan and prepare to support the gospel every single weekend. And so I think it's just one of those things that we were already doing for so long, and our team has already been so good at it, that I just decided to take it and highlight it and make it something like, hey, Go Podium, And our production director calls it every single week. And so he is the highlight of the person who makes it happen. And I just kind of sit back and just make sure, hey, everything's great. And then our team has had a good time. We actually named a meeting after it just because of the reasoning behind it. So our Monday morning meeting is called Go Podium, just because that's the start of when we get things done, and there's a lot of a couple different reasons behind it. But it's just one of those things that I always think that culture is so important on a team. And whatever I can do to help create culture and create buy-in and create like this kind of camaraderie on our team is even from a broadcast tech standpoint. Like, I've got other leaders. We've got other incredible leaders on our team, production directors who lead the volunteers. But one of the things that I'm very passionate about is just making sure that there's a culture that people want to be a part of, not just on the volunteering side, but even on the tech side as well.
Bro, I love it. I did not expect the deepness to Go Podium, but it's there. That's awesome.
There it is. I try to throw it in the caption every now and then because it's a little hard. Like, how do you make something that's so like, okay, that's, you expect it to be a little cheesy, and sometimes it is, and I know that there's a cheese factor to it, but it's also like, hey, like there's also reason behind it, and there's also culture and vision. I try to at least put some culture and vision behind it too, and make it fun. So
that's awesome, dude. Speaking of preaching and podiums, what about the preaching TV situation?
That thing is sweet, huh?
What is going on with this?
That thing is legit. So we have had some form of scripture generator for the past, I would say, like 10-ish years. We have a guy on staff. His name is Brody. He is, I don't even know his title, but he is incredibly talented when it comes to coding, when it comes to creating applications. Really, his like, if you were to ask him like, hey, what do you like to do on staff? He likes to just make things as simple as possible for people. And so he's had his hand in many different things, like even building our website, things like that. So Scripture Generator just kind of came from a place where we were like, hey, we want pastor to be able to have another way to present the gospel and to teach the gospel. And so it's literally a web browser that we sign into. The guys have coded it, all that jazz, and it looks like the Bible app. It functions like the Bible app. There's like 8 different versions of the Bible in there. He can like tap around to whatever verse he wants to, whatever version of the Bible, and then he just uses his pen, his stylus to navigate the thing, the text, highlight, underline, all that kind of stuff. And it's a Samsung Flip 2. So it is a Samsung Flip 2 with a little Nook PC attached to it, and some of our data guys, or our what are they called, digital guys, they just remote into it to make sure that everything's working properly. So they're like remoted into it the whole time he's running it. And
is it on a loom or is it battery powered?
It's on a loom. So we've got that would be sick if it was battery powered, but a little dangerous too. But yeah, it's Cat 5, so it's hardline internet to it, and power are the main 2 things. We also have an SDI line ran in there as well, just in case we ever needed to send a video to it or whatever. But for the most part, it lives on this one input, and anything that any scripture or whatever he wants to do or he wants to draw, he's able to kind of navigate that and do it that way. So it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool thing. He's preached with it, I want to say, like 10-ish times this year. He just finished up the Ghost Rider series a couple weeks ago, and I think almost every single week he was preaching on it and teaching from it.
Wow.
And unfortunately, no, the software is not available. I wish we could. I'll talk to the boys and see what we can get moving, but it's not available. However, I think there's plenty of, I don't know, I'm guarantee you there's other ways to figure out a nice little way to present scripture and stuff like that. But this was just one of those creative things where it's like, hey, we want to give them something fresh, something new, a nice little way to be able to present and teach and to kind of allow him to kind of tap into a different dynamic of his preaching style, teaching style, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, one thing I loved about it is, like you said, it's almost like the Bible app that you're used to seeing in your hand. And so I think that it's almost like this instant connection for people that see it on stage, and the verticalness of it is a unique thing. How do you feel about vertical TV on video shots? Because I feel like, is it tough to get it all in there? We've toyed with the idea of going vertical.
Yeah.
What's the benefits?
Dude, I feel like I'm one of those guys where I'm like, I like to push the boundaries of anything and everything. So traditional media has always been 16:9. I'm like, I wouldn't hate to have some version or an option for people to be able to watch anything they want to watch in 9:16. So I like vertical stuff. I mean, you watch or look at whether it's TikTok, whether it's whatever, Instagram, all that kind of stuff is all vertical on your phone, right? And so I think the world is kind of that way, but I also don't think that it's like something where it's like, oh, we should all just shift to do everything vertical. I think there's a tastefulness to it. There's, if it fits you well, then that's great. But I don't think it's like, I don't know. I feel like it's a great optional thing to be able to provide for people, but I don't think it's necessary. Like it's like, oh, you got to do it. But in terms of the TV though, it does make it a little challenging, kind of. I would say if it was horizontal, like if it was landscape, it would be even harder to capture, just because then you got to get pastor in there and the TV, so you might have to have a wider frame. The vertical frame is kind of nice because then I can have pastor in there and you can have the TV and then have a little bit more space around it. So I think framing him, and for the most part we've dedicated, it's our house right, stage left camera that like captures him when he's writing, so that way you can see majority of the screen in the frame, and then he's there as well. So
nice.
We've toyed around with a couple ideas, but for the most part, we've kind of standardized like, hey, that's the camera we cut to whenever he's going to go write and teach and, use the TV for the most part. And the team does a good job of like kind of cutting around it as well too. So
that's cool, man. Yeah, I've kind of been playing dead with my pastor as far as like, can we do a touch screen? Because my fear is like the weatherman that's drawing things that are inappropriate accidentally as he's circling scripture,
Which is one of the reasons we have one of the guys promoted into it at all times. However,
clear, dude,
black it out. Yeah, it's really, you never know. I mean, again, I hope your pastor is not doing any of that, but yeah, I think the principle there, is just have a fail safe, I guess, if you're gonna end up doing that.
That's right, absolutely. All right, man, you ready to jump into some of these live stream reviews?
Absolutely, let's do it.
Cool. All right, well, first up we have Church of the Nations. Church of the Nations is using 4 red Komodos. Are you familiar with Komodos? You use them?
I am. Yeah. So we do not use them in broadcasts, but our creative, our film team, it's their favorite camera. It's their go-to for all of everything elevation worship that you see on YouTube. For the most part, that's an album, is shot on red.
Gotcha. His main question, and we'll watch it here as we continue to talk about it, is that he's saying that they struggle to define their style. Like when they watch Elevation or Bethel, each has a very defined style. So how would you go about creating a style, and how do you communicate that to volunteers? We can talk about that more after we watch this a little bit, and if we see anything, camera shots, directing, audio, you guys chime in the chat as well for things that you see. Here we go. Let's watch for a bit.
Wanting a place to hide this weary soul, this bag of bones. I tried with all my might, but I just can't win the fight. I'm slowly drifting, a vagabond. And just when I ran out of road, I met a man I didn't know, and he told me that I was not alone. He picked me up and turned me around. He placed my feet on solid ground. I thank the Master, I thank the Savior, because he healed my heart, changed my name, forever free. I'm not the same. I thank the Master, I thank the Savior. Say, I thank God.
Well, first off, I really dig this arrangement. It's kind of like got a little gospel flavor to it, tasting it up a little bit there.
Yeah.
So anything stick out to you on the first watch through that you might point out to these guys?
Yeah, I see. I mean, I see that Movi moving. That guy is all over the place, and I mean, it's such a. I love looking at people's live streams because I love just seeing, man, what are they seeing? What are they feeling? What are they working with? I know they talked a little bit about style. What I see immediately is that they have all the parts and pieces that they need. You know what I mean? I think that you look at everything. You've got the jib, you've got a Movi, you've got multiple cameras on stage, you've got multiple cameras, tracking worship leaders, all that jazz. Like they've got all the pieces they need. I would say everything just feel a little bit dark.
Yeah.
Like the stage is very well lit, which is obviously the focal point of what you want to see and what you're looking. But I think also too, what I love is being able to make the room feel like the canvas versus just the stage, if you will. And I know that's a tricky thing to do too, because like there's different dynamics of lighting the crowd, lighting the stage, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, the fact that the jib is on, I love jibs that are up close and able to kind of add tons of movement. So you've got a couple cameras there that are doing their movement thing. You got the Movi, which has a very fluid movement. You got the jib that has a very fluid movement, and then you've got a couple static cameras like this that are kind of shooting across. And I've seen the Movi. You can kind of see the Movi operator right there in the front of the stage. He's a little bit all over the place. I don't know. I think defining a style probably starts with, for volunteers, defining your zones. Okay, like what is this camera shooting? Where are they going? And I think sometimes creating a box may feel limiting for people, but I think sometimes being able to live in the box is the best place that you can start, if that makes sense. Like, for example, like say I've got I believe they is stage right, they've got a roaming camera over there. Like if that camera knows, hey, I'm rocking on these keys, I'm rocking on these 2 BGVs, and then I'm getting bass maybe, then that kind of creates a box for them to live in, and they know like, cool, I'm getting this shot, this shot, this shot, this shot, that shot, this shot. And I think once you start to live in the box a little bit, you can be more creative with it. So I think, I don't know, that's where I would start, is just defining a style is also starts with defining like, hey, where do your cameras live and what shots do they live on? Like, that's a really great, like, clearly there's talent on this team.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Clearly there's talent. Clearly they've got the pieces. But I think it starts a little bit with that of like, hey, defining the boxes these guys live in. Like, for example, the Movi coming around the front like that. It's not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But then also like, hey, what does your camera 1 pick up? What does your camera 2 pick up? So. Yeah,
and that's great. What's your thoughts on camera operators in shots? Like, are you guys real conscious of that? Or is it like, you know what, it's just going to happen. We got 12 operators.
Yeah, we have 8. 8 on a good day. 8 on a good day. No, I don't know. I don't think there's like a right or wrong when it comes to getting them in shots. I would say try not to if you can, just because that'll really help you just hide operators.
Sure.
But also just know, like, in some cases it's going to be inevitable. But I think if you're able to work it out and you're able to communicate with your team well, you shouldn't really see many camera operators in shots. I mean, unless it's like a jib or something like that where you're showing the whole room. I know you're going to see people, but
yeah. What about shots where you're popping over to a congregation member worshiping, showing their front face? What's y'all's kind of MO for that? Are y'all showing that on broadcast but not on iMag? Or do you just avoid it, shoot from the back?
Yeah, typically we stay away from it. I think the biggest thing is I personally would disengage from worship if I saw myself up there on the screen, like, oh, hey, how's it going? And so I think, almost like getting caught worshiping. Like, I think for me, it's just something I would personally stay away from. We don't do it at elevation of showing people on iMag or on broadcast. If you do see stuff in videos, it's always in post, like, if it's a worship shoot or something like that. But just because, like, you just don't want to put somebody in an awkward spot or disengage them from worship in any way, I guess. And I think that's an easy thing to stick away from. I don't know. I would ask myself, hey, what value does it add if I show people in the congregation worshiping? Because I could see the argument on the other side saying, like, wait, if people see somebody worshiping, then maybe they'll want to worship too. So I think it's just kind of the driver behind it, and also the tastefulness of the shot. Like, when are you taking that shot? What is that person doing? Obviously you want to, in a high energy moment, I don't see it would be a problem at all, but I think it just needs to be tasteful.
Man, I think that this church is killing it. They're doing a great job. The only thing that I've noticed is just maybe focus issues with their Movi guy. Do you have any tips for roamers with focus? Are y'all ever using autofocus? Is it full manual? You got any tips for pulling focus?
Pulling focus is definitely a skill to practice. For our Movi op specifically, they've got someone doing it remotely, and so they're not the Movi op is just swinging that thing around, doing his thing. But for the most part, also he's shooting very wide, and so he's not having to do a ton of focusing, I guess, if you will. But yeah, focus is definitely a skill. You just got to practice a little bit in order to really nail it. And I think if you get your focus right, you can then start having fun with it. Pulling, racking your focus to other, depths of field and all that kind of stuff helps create really cool dynamic shots. But
yeah,
landing your focus is the priority number one, right?
Well, you guys are shooting on, those are full frame, right? Or are they Super 35?
They're Super 35, yeah.
So are you running f-stops like higher, like at 5.6, or are you running them wide open?
They're usually actually right about 4, I want to say like 4.5, 4.8, depending. I think on sermon it might come down a little bit, but no, If it was up to me, I would try to run it a little bit wider open. But when I say if it's up to me, it kind of is. But we usually live right around like 4.6 to 4.9 is kind of where they're at. And it looks great and it does a great job. So I think it's just kind of like a balance between lighting and also how does it feel in the room? How do the cameras look? So we land right about there with our glass. So
yeah, that makes sense, man. That's one thing we've been toying with, is going with some full frame stuff, but your focal plane becomes so narrow and thin that, you know, pastor walks back and forth a little bit. Now we're out of focus and we're not manually focusing on the fly during preach. So it's like, well, our micro four thirds sensors at 2.8 actually are about the right focal plane, and it's letting in the same amount of light. So, you know, it's just this kind of weird balancing game, you know. So
yeah, absolutely. It's always something to play with. It's always something to mess around with. And then also ask, you know, I'm newer to my role as well. And so I don't know if there's anybody in the chat who's like, man, what I want to change stuff. I don't feel like I can change stuff. You know, I think for me is always just asking the question, hey, why do we do what we do? And is it still the best for what our application is? And can it change? I'm always asking myself, like, can something change? Can it be better? Does it need to change? Most of the time the answer is no, but I do like exploring and discovering, like, oh, okay, that's why it shouldn't change. Oh, that's why it is the way it is. And so I think the ability to make your stream better or to get better at what you do is always asking the question, how can this be better?
Yeah.
Why is it the way that it is? And then going from there. So
that's cool, man. That's great thoughts. Well, thanks to Church of the Nations for submitting. You guys are doing a great job. Hopefully you can take some of those thoughts and apply them, or toss them in the trash and keep doing whatever you want to do. It's your church, you know. We're just guys on the internet. So all right. Let's go to our next live stream review. This is just a little small church named LakePointe Church. And, you know, they're a great church. Josh Howerton, the pastor there, they're doing great things. And they submitted. And LakePointe, as I press play here, they are rocking FX9s. And they're all on 2110 video system stuff. They're going through Pro Tools to Dante.
I saw my guy, Andy Bentley, in the chat. He works for the company that just did the upgrade at LakePointe.
Oh, really? Which integration company is that?
Skylark.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they're at Oklahoma. So
we work with those guys a lot too. So
yeah, they're great. And this is Chris Cootie. He used to be at Life Church in Oklahoma.
Great.
Let's watch and listen a little bit. Let's watch and listen a little bit.
Song of ages to the land, and all who've gone before us, and all who will believe, will sing the song of ages to the land. Come on, let's lift our voices together. Say, your name is the highest. Your name is the greatest. Your name always stands above them all. All thrones and dominions, all powers and positions. Your name always stands above them all. And the angels cry, holy. All creation cries, he is holy. You are lifted high, holy, holy forever. Oh, he is high and lifted up.
Well, the first thing I notice is that the audio is on point. Like, it sounds so good.
crispy.
Yeah, so great mix to your audio engineer there. What kind of things are sticking out to you for their broadcast that you're seeing, Shep?
Yeah, I mean, first things first, it feels big and it looks big. I think it is big, and so I think that just it looks clean. The worship leaders are lit very well. The band is definitely dark, so you can kind of very much so tell, like, oh, the band is not quite as lit as much as the front vocalist and even the acoustic guitar over there. I love the foreground. I love the some of the wider shots, getting people's hands in the shot, all that kind of stuff. The pacing feels really nice too. It feels like a very like, man, I like watching this because I just feel kind of drawn in to the pacing of it. It doesn't feel too busy, if you will, but it just feels very smooth, very steady. And I don't know if those words are making full sense. But also too, you can tell they're cutting back and forth between a couple of VGVs. Like you see the people leading worship. I think that's a very important key when directing or when doing camera shots, is having some form of balance between your instrumentation and your worship leaders and BGVs, because at the end of the day, the worship leaders are leading the worship. So, being able to see them, mouth the words and being able to worship along with them, I think is really, really important. And I feel like the instrumentation should always add to that. That's just my personal opinion, if you will.
Yeah.
But
what about when you're directing? Can you give us some tips for how you're actually communicating with your camera ops? Are you guys using numbers? Are you telling them that they're live, or they have tally systems on every camera? What's the best practice there?
I always would say that you want to have some sort of a cadence, right, whenever you're directing. So for us, a lot of times we say the number that we're previewing, and then we say taking that number. So for example, 1, taking 1, 2, taking 2, 4, taking 4. So that way our camera operators kind of understand that cadence. But then also we do a full run through of our service before actually doing live for 9:30 and 11:30. And so all camera operators are there. Everyone runs it like it's live. And so that's another great place to get some of those mental reps. The video director will coach some of the camera operators. Hey, go grab guitar here, or make sure you jump over to this worship leader here. And so there's a lot of that. However, I think what makes our cameras and our camera operators what gives them the ability to flourish is that they live within their boxes.
Right.
So they know, like, hey, I'm going to be here for worship, and I'm going to shoot this, this, and this, and I'm going to get really good at shooting this, this, and this from different focal lengths, from different positions. And I think that helps the camera operators not be overwhelmed per se when it comes to shooting what they're shooting, and they know what they're getting. And so, for example, our camera one op is literally locked on that main worship leader the entire time. So no matter what, no matter where the video director cuts to, they can always cut to that camera one shot. Similarly to, whether you've got, camera 4, which is our defy track, there's always going to be some sort of big sweeping movement over there. Your Movi is going to always have some sort of movement. So I think, like I said, I kind of going back to what I said earlier about defining your boxes, I think allows you to really have a really clean stream like this, to where the jib op knows where they're running. Their camera 1, 2, 3, like everyone knows where they're going, what they're shooting, because they're not trying to shoot everything, but they know exactly what they're trying to shoot, right?
Yeah. One thing I've noticed on their stream, which LakePointe, y'all's stream is amazing. You're killing, you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
The only thing I've noticed that's been like, is Chris and some of the other leaders against this LED wall. I'm seeing like some either chromatic aberration or some type of fringing around their shoulders sometimes. What are you doing? Is that just a shallower depth of field will help you get rid of some of that stuff, or what do you have to think about that at elevation?
So we actually don't shoot on a ton of LED. Like for the most part, everything behind worship leaders, pastors, communicators, all that kind of stuff is actually, I feel like we shifted that a couple of years ago to where we're not really shooting on a ton of LED. I might need to ask the question why, but I do know that it's one of the things that we're not always having to deal with quite as much but I know a ton of churches who have LED is their backdrop, right? So how do you combat that? One of the things, and I used to be at a church where we would have LED as our backdrop. And so one of the things that we started to do is we have to play with just the brightness of the LED, because obviously those are full-on lights coming directly in the camera's lenses. And so playing with the brightness is very important. Your shutter speed, shutter angle of the camera has an effect on, the moire or the what are the lines called?
The banding, yeah.
Banding, exactly. And so so there's a couple of different ways that you can play with it, a couple of different ways you can do. I think if everything is referenced together, the cameras shouldn't have that big of a problem with banding. But I think moire is just one of those things where you just kind of got to adjust your focus, adjust your zoom, all that kind of stuff in order to get rid of it. But
talk to me about cuts versus dissolves. Are you ever doing dissolves? Are you changing the timing of how long those dissolves are? Are you thinking about BPM of song? What's your thoughts?
We don't dissolve ever during worship. Ever during worship. So that's and I would say ever. Maybe like once a year for a performance song that we're doing in Easter or Christmas, right? Very, very seldomly are we dissolving, just because it's the style that we've defined. Like, hey, we cut our cameras, we cut here, cut there. We feel like it helps. It creates energy from camera to camera, and for the most part too. Like say you were to go watch a music video or some sorts or whatever, a lot of times you're going to see camera cuts. A lot of times, even in movies, you're going to see camera cuts, and it just kind of I feel like it engages your viewer a little bit. So we're really not dissolving. The only time we are dissolving is transitions, right? So into a video, out of a video. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it.
Outside of that, we're using cameras to make transitions. Whether you've got a big wide sweeping shot coming in or something like that, we're using those for transitions. But other than that, we're always cutting cameras and only cutting cameras.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Well, I think LakePointe, you guys are doing an amazing job, and really appreciate you guys submitting, and keep up the good work.
Keep it up, guys.
Yes, they're doing a great job. Guys in the chat, let me know if you have any specific questions for us today. We've got a couple of more live stream reviews lined up here. And so I think let's go ahead and go on to the next one. This is a very interesting church called The Grove. The Grove is it appears to almost be set up like in the round a little bit. And so have you ever done any worship in the round type stuff before?
One time, but I wasn't capturing or doing anything. So honestly, I haven't done too much in it. No, not at all.
That's cool. Well, let's go ahead and pull them up, and we'll watch some of what they got going on over here at The Grove. How conscious are you guys of that, like coming out of Countdown or coming out of live stream host into worship? Are y'all actually producing that? Or you have a stock video you're using every week that just goes between that moment?
Yeah, recently we've been doing a throw, is what we call it. And so it's always, for the most part, it's always a host throwing to worship. So like, hey, church, go ahead and jump up on your feet. Not in the room, but for online. Like, hey, church, go ahead and jump up on your feet, da-da-da-da. In the room, we've been doing a 2-minute countdown for years. And so the 2-minute countdown has energy. It's got a track behind it. It's got energy that flows right into the first song. For online, it's always a host getting people to stand up on their feet, engage in worship, because I think sometimes, especially online, you're just sitting on your couch, you're chilling, you're pulling it up, and so the goal there is always to like get people to engage in worship and really to join in, and then they'll throw to worship, and then we just jump over to a wide shot camera that transitions us just like this into the worship set.
Yeah, I love starting on the wide shot, establishing the room for the viewer. Are you guys changing out the music of that 2-minute bumper in room to go with the key of the first song or anything like that?
Yeah, normally the 2-minute bumper is adjusted just depending on whatever the first song is, the key of it, so that way it just seamlessly flows right into it.
I see. We kind of cheated. Our intro video is 30 seconds, and I just made like a percussion only track that we just start kind of vamping underneath with the key, so that way I don't have to change the song every time.
Smart. That's super smart. Smart. Work smarter, not harder.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. All right, let's watch.
Morning. Welcome to the Grove. We're glad you're here. Let's sing together. There's no limit to what you can do when your spirit's moving in the room. We might be waiting on a miracle, but you're the God of the impossible. Yeah, we believe that. I believe you're changing lives right now. I believe you're turning things around. There's no limit to what you can do, and you're just getting started. You're just getting started. What was dead is coming back to life.
All right, that's The Grove. First of all, is this lead singer like a CCM artist? I feel like he's
No,
like...
that's definitely the guy from...
I wanted to say The Afters, but it's not The
No,
Afters.
no, that's definitely the guy from
Is it the guy from The Afters?
Yeah, 100%.
We were supposed to open for The Afters, and they canceled on us. So we opened for Starfield instead. But yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, I recognize his face.
No, he does look very familiar. I forget his name, but he does look very familiar.
Yeah.
Great guy, loves the Lord. Clearly.
This is a cool
Worshiping
church,
Jesus.
though. Tell me
Yeah, it looks
about what you're
awesome.
seeing here.
I mean, immediately, actually, I noticed lyrics. Funny
Yep.
enough, the lyrics are, to me, they're a little bit high, but also like lower third lyrics. They're usually a bump lower, but it's also a very thin font, and so it's not terribly hard to read. I guess in different camera shots, it may be harder just because it's not quite as thick of a font, if you will.
Right.
And that's a funny thing to observe because the the set looks so beautiful. The room feels so lively. The shots feel so engaging. But I think the thing that draws my attention is the lyrics, which is kind of random, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. Lyrics are important too, because if you think about it, you're really wanting. That's the tool that you use. Not only does the worship leader use their voice and instruments play, but also lyrics are such an important part of getting people to engage and to be able to read and follow along and sing the words that you're singing. And so I wouldn't say these are the worst lyrics I've ever seen at all, but it's just something I noticed. I was like, wow, okay, cool, interesting choice. And I would just ask, what's the thought behind it? Or is there a thought behind it? If not, whatever.
Yeah, it almost seems like the Luma key that they're using is maybe needs to be dialed in more, because I'm seeing that like ghosting of the black kind of happening when it switches or something. So you might just look at those. I forget what those settings are, but you
restart your Ultra Studio 4K.
Sometimes,
so many times.
Sometimes all you got to do is restart it, right?
Restart
How many
4K.
times have you tracked down a problem for an hour and then you're like, I should just turn it off and on, and it fixes it?
I would say 97.5% of the time.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. Lyrics are an interesting thing, though, because a couple churches ago, I was like, those might be too small. It's like this weird sweet spot you're trying to find. And then depending on what you're shooting, like, do you need a background behind it? Do you guys have a font that's like a go-to for you guys?
We've had a couple over the years, Helvetica, Verdana. I've used Montserrat a good bit. I don't feel like there's an exact, like, use this font. It is the most engaging font for your for the people attending your church. But I would just say,
are you all caps?
All caps for sure. Yeah, I think all caps just makes it feel official, if you will. And it also, I don't know, I think it makes it easier to read in some cases. But that's
my main use case for that is then I don't get the grammar police coming up to me.
That is true. That is 100% true. Because they're gonna find you. That's for sure.
That's right. You did not capitalize he. And I'm like, well.
Okay, you're correct. God is a capital G.
Yes.
And just make it OD, and then you just capitalize everything.
That's right. That's right. What else are you seeing here? This is a really interesting, different kind of live stream that you're up against some different challenges.
Yeah, the lighting is nice. I would say it's almost trying to be kind of contemporary in the way that, like, there's different colors and all that kind of stuff. I would say you almost don't even need colors for this, in my opinion. I'm almost like, light this thing almost as if it was a studio, maybe.
Yeah, they got lots of natural light coming in too.
Tons. Are those windows?
It looks like it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it looks so nice. But yeah, I think adding a little bit of color is a great taste, and it feels so warm and inviting because you just see people everywhere you look. There's people, and I think that to me is just something that draws me in and be like, man, I like people behind him. You cut to somebody else, people behind them, and I'm just like, man, I like seeing that movement creates energy, and that movement, you don't. If your worship leaders aren't creating energy, the people behind them probably are. So you look people.
Yeah. I mean, the black box thing is something a lot of churches have, and this is a refreshing kind of like, it feels like, oh, wow, this is kind of like, I like the vibe, where you got some light. Is that something y'all are conscious of with your lighting? Are you lighting audience a certain way for certain camera shots?
Yes. Lighting is, I'm a big video guy, but I would sometimes argue that lighting is like, it makes video. So without lighting, you don't have video, right? And so I just think that, like, when it comes to those two, you got to be dialed in with your lighting guy. But also remember, like, without the lighting guy, there's no video. Like, the video's not going to look good, right? So when we light things, we try to light for video, but also in the room. So I think there's a very fine, interesting dynamic there. But our lighting designers are amazing. Matt is our main lighting guy, and he does a fantastic job of making sure we pretty much wash the stage with light, so everything is lit, and then we also light the crowd as well. So there's different fixtures around our bowl that we use to light the crowd, light our congregation, and then also we use just our regular light from up top to light them as well. So we are very conscious of lighting for every song. And it doesn't change a ton. Like, obviously the colors and the looks will change, but we kind of stick to some of those core principles of making sure that the band is washed and we can also see the room, especially on those wide shots.
Yeah. Everybody wants to buy a new camera, but sometimes you just need to get some better lighting.
A lot of people have asked me, Shep, how do we get our live stream to look like yours or whatever? And then they're like, we've got the Vericams, we've got every camera you've got. I'm like, well, upgrade the lighting. And the thing is, it's so hard. It's power. It's a pretty hefty expense depending on what you go with. But I think getting the right light fixture is literally the night and day difference between like even. So I was trying to get one of my other cameras to work this morning and I couldn't figure it out. So I'm literally using a webcam. But I also know I've seen people use webcams. This is like the little Logitech little 1080p guy. I've seen people use webcams like this and make them look phenomenal because of the lighting. And I'm over here like, well, I'm much better with a DSLR or with something else. But I think that is the key. Like even look at your live stream. I mean, the way you're lit, I think it's just a very, very important thing is to consider when you're a video guy is how am I lighting this? What am I lighting it with? And how am I achieving the product that I'm trying to achieve?
Yeah. Are you ever working with the lighting director when you're designing looks? Are you live shading cameras to compensate for lighting? Or is lighting consistent enough, like you're saying, you wash it, that most cameras don't have to be live shaded? Because most of us don't have that capability. Is that something you have a dedicated person worrying about that?
Yeah, so we do have a live shader who's sitting at our shader station at all times and is making small adjustments and tweaks, just depending per song, nothing crazy. For the most part, worship is pretty set, but our lighting designer is also very conscious of the way the cameras look, and so as he's designing, he's oftentimes pulling up cameras to just see and check and make sure those look good as well.
Cool.
And so for the most part, he's making all the calls when it comes to how everything looks and the lighting of everything. But if we have feedback like, hey, it feels too dark, or hey, it feels really dark on camera, or really blue. But I think at this point, we just had enough of those conversations over time to where we feel really confident in his ability to program, and he knows what he's doing in the sense that he knows how to light it, essentially.
Do you know what color temperature y'all are running your key lights at?
I think our key light is at 4800 rings the clearest bell to me.
Yeah.
But I know that our cameras are in 50, 60. And so there's a little, I want to say 48.
Okay.
48 feels right.
So definitely on the cooler side, not the warmer side.
Yeah, I would have to fact check myself.
Sure.
I ain't gonna lie to you. But I do know that it's either 48 or 5000, but then the cameras are in 50, 60, and there's a little bit of a green magenta shift in there as well, just because of the Panasonics.
Gotcha.
And so, but no, me and Matt, we have fantastic conversations because I'm always trying to learn more and more from him. He's such a professional at what he does, and is really a really great designer as well. And so I'm always asking him questions of like, man, can we try this? Can we try that? And he's so gracious and willing to always accommodate my ideas.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. All right, man, that's good
Andy
info.
said 4800 is correct. See, 4800 ring the bell, and that's the one.
Hey, see, you got a good memory. You got to know it, all the ins and outs, man. That's right. Yeah. Well, I think the Grove is a really unique, cool church doing some interesting stuff. My last question before we move to the next one is, how do you feel about white shirts on stage? Do y'all have any dress code things that you for broadcasts? Since you're broadcasting, is it like?
I haven't seen a white shirt in a minute. So I think we probably do, and it's probably just not communicated to me, or maybe it's not something I've worried about because I don't see too many white shirts. Like Pastor wears a lot of, whether he wears a lot of jackets or he doesn't wear a ton of white. I'm trying to think, but I don't know. Yeah, I think it definitely. Traditionally, everyone says like white is not the most flattering color, especially when
just
you're
for
on
exposing
stage.
things too. It's like you end up blowing out the shirt, trying to expose for skin tones, that kind of thing.
Exactly. So I don't know. I mean, I think if you want to wear white, just know that, like, hey, the cameras may or may not look the best while you're wearing it. So I think it's just a conversation too, of like letting the speaker know, like, hey, here's the palette, here's what you should go for. And I want to say there's some form of communication when it goes on that. I don't do too much.
I think it's something, though, that small churches that are running camcorders that are going to have moire issues with the golf shirt that's a really tight knit, may have to have that conversation with your pastor after he wears it. Like, bro, like, if you cannot wear that shirt, that would be great, because it actually does not work with our camera system.
I actually have never seen moire on a shirt before, so that's really interesting that you mentioned that.
Yeah, small enough sensors and stuff, you'll get it with those really tight knit stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah. Some of you guys in the chat probably know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, my pastor does it all the time.
Absolutely. It's his favorite shirt. It's his Oklahoma Sooners,
the old Nike
jersey.
Combat Pro. Yeah, he's wearing his game day jersey.
Do you have a dress code for those on production team?
Yeah, for the most part, we wear black. We also give of our volunteers, we have a production shirt, a black production shirt that says production on the back of them. So for the most part, when you come onto the team, you're provided with that. And then normally it's just dark pants, dark shirt. I mean, even myself, like I'm on staff, but also for the most part, every single Sunday I show up with black shoes, black pants, dark shirt, just because whether I need to jump up on stage and run and do something or whatever it is, don't want to be sticking out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That's something we need to do is give production shirts to my team. Yeah. Do you have any students serving on your teams?
We do have a couple actually, and I'm a huge, I love that question because I feel like it opens up so much. We do have a couple of students that serve on the team. Do you have a follow-up question to that?
Yeah, I mean, and
Yeah.
just I've had some other people in the chat asking, like, what is your onboarding process? How do you train a new director if you're not the one directing? And could you tap into that pool of students? We have about 8 students that serve on our team, I think.
Great. Yeah, I think students is, I was a student once. I mean, we were all students, at some point in time serving in production. And so I think that like being able to train and train them up, and give them opportunity is the biggest thing that you can do for a student. Is whether, I think Sunday morning sometimes can be one of those like, oh gosh, we can't let a student do something on a Sunday morning. But I think if you give them as many opportunities as they can have and can handle outside of a Sunday morning or maybe a later service or an early, you know what I mean?
Do you have a farm system like in the youth? They have a similar Ross system or something?
I wish we did. Well, we do kind of we do end up scheduling a lot of youth for rhythm nights, which are our youth nights, which we do those every other month right now. So we don't have a ton of events for students specifically that are production heavy.
Right.
We do obviously have things at campuses, but I think it's really important because a lot of times I hear the conversation happen where students can be unreliable, just in the sense that they may not have their own transportation, or they have to rely on a parent to get them to where they go. So we do have, I believe 16 is like our starting age for students to be able to serve in production. But even when they come onto the team, our production directors have conversations with parents to make sure that they have transportation and they're able to get from A to B and be able to be on time. So like I said, we have some students who serve on a team. We do not have a ton of students who serve on a team. And that's just because of the nature of the timing in which that we're doing what we're doing. But I think that it's always something that we're excited to have students and train people up. And we have, like I said, we have 19 campuses. So there are plenty of students who I know serve in many different roles across our campuses.
Sure. Oh my gosh,
which is really, really cool. So yeah.
That's awesome, dude. As far as training your team, as you onboard people, is it all in person, or do you have video content that you produce where it's like, hey, watch this library of stuff we've developed, or is it all kind of in person?
We do a lot of in-person stuff. We've used a lot of MXU content as well, which has been really helpful. But for the most part, it's all in person. Like we'll have people come in, they go to an E101, which is basically like a volunteer orientation. And then from there, they get toured, get a tour of production. And then from there, it's just figuring out, hey, which roles do we have open? Which areas do you want to serve in? And then from there, it's a lot of just getting people paired with people. I think connections is like the biggest way that you can get people to stay on a production team. I think it's hard enough taking the step of faith to sign up and actually go to serve. But then I think the way you keep people is just through the community they can make. And so video content is great. Don't get me wrong. It is fantastic. But I do think that there is just invaluable ability whenever you're able to train people in person, have conversations, get to know people. So I would recommend that above anything versus just say, yeah, great. All right, cool. You want to be a camera guy, watch these 5 videos and come talk to me. It is easier in the sense that you don't have to say the same thing over and over and over. But I think if you can kind of have some form of balance where it's like, hey, I want to meet you, see you in person, take you to coffee, whatever that looks like. And then also providing them with some different examples. One thing that I do every single weekend is I do take the weekend camera cut. So it's just the multi-viewer and the video director's comm. And I make a little private YouTube link for all of our camera operators to watch it back. And so that way it's just one of those things where, hey, watch back your experience. It's got the multi-viewer so you can see the camera shots you did. You can see the camera shots that were taken. And it's just a small, really easy little capture and upload that allows people to be able to go back and watch what they did throughout the week and maybe study it, maybe get a little bit better, maybe kind of provide a space for feedback as well. And so that's been helpful too. But I think, like I said, community and conversations when it comes to training people is the winning ingredient, I think.
Man, that's great thoughts. I love it. All right, we got time for one more live stream review, maybe.
Oh man, got a busy sketch. Yeah, we'll squeeze in one more.
Let's do one more. You know, it is after all my
YouTube
channel.
Okay.
So
that's true. It's true.
I want you just to give me a few thoughts for our. I have a part-time tech director that directs about 2 out of the 4 Sundays.
Great.
And this is all just students running cameras. We got a couple mobile guys, but a lot of just sliders and random little trinkets doing camera movements. So we got 2 camera ops, I believe, this Sunday.
And this is yours, you said, correct?
Yep.
Great.
Is a lamp unto my feet. Your way is the only way for me. It's a narrow road that leads to life, but I wanna be honest. It's a narrow road, but the mercy is wide, 'cause you're good on your promise. I'll take you at your word. If you said it, I'll believe it. I've seen how good it works. If you start it, you'll complete it. I'll take you at your word. You spoke, and the chaos fell in line.
All right, so that's what
Wonderful.
we're working with, man.
Great.
It's been a labor of love. You know, when I came
I
here, it
love
was an iPhone that was sitting at the sound booth,
yeah.
going straight to Facebook Live. So
Yep.
we've got a little bit of a tech budget each year that I just kind of have gradually been adding to and trying to train some people up to do it. Like, this is just a guy on a Ronin walking
great.
around with
I was
a
gonna ask,
GH5.
I was gonna ask if that was like a dolly.
It's just
Dana
wireless.
dolly.
Yeah, they're just on a Teradek Ace 500.
Great.
And then this guy's side stage, he's wired now. And then
Great.
We have one other wireless. But, you know, with my people, I think those training things that you're talking about is going to be invaluable. Just, hey, let's all get on the same page of how we're framing shots. How do we pull focus? It's hard whenever you don't come to rehearsal and understanding exactly what to do. So any thoughts for my team, for me, and our live stream?
Yeah, I mean, initially I noticed the 4-3 crop. Is that a 4? Wait, what is that? 4-2-2?
So it's like 2-3-5-1. So those are
okay.
just black bars that I've added on there to
Yeah.
get our lyrics legible underneath
Smart.
and everything.
It's smart because it also adds like a cinematic look to it. You know,
I mean,
it makes it look nice.
I kind of stole it from Red Rocks. They were doing
Yeah.
it. So,
yeah.
you know.
At Hope City in Houston, we used to do the same thing where we had a crop on it, and we would bring it in and bring it out.
Yep.
For worship and versus hosting and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah, I think so. You said you're working with a lot of students. Is
Yep.
great, wonderful. I would say, you know, when it comes to training and all that, is this just a camera on a slider right here?
That's just a slider. Yep.
That feels so nice, and I think being able to, like, even this guitar shot right here is wonderful. You know, coaching the rule of thirds and framing, like, hey, frame him over here versus framing him here.
Absolutely.
Probably. But then also too, just giving him like, hey, here's 3 shots that I want you to focus on today. I want you to rotate. Every time I take our camera shot, give me another shot. Every time I take that shot, give me the next shot. And that way they're kind of able to add to their arsenal of like, okay, cool. Because I think with youth sometimes, or, you know, with anybody starting out, it's very easy to give them the camera and say like, hey. And also, I understand the pressure of a Sunday morning. I understand all the different decisions that need to be made and all the different things that are going on too. And so sometimes you may not have all the time in the world to sit there and train sometimes. And so being able to give them just 3 things, like, hey, here's 3 things I want you to focus on today. And then that way they know, like, cool, boom, I've got this shot. Awesome. I'm going to pan up to his face next time. Boom, got that shot. All right, now I'm going to get the BGV. Boom, got that. Boom, boom. So that way it kind of allows you to, like I said at the beginning, is start in a box, which you've given them the box to work in, which is exactly where you want to be. But now take that box and give them from where they're at, give them where they can kind of work them, show them their tools, if you will, and things like that. Yeah.
How much are you like cutting to the beat of the song, or actually like going on a big hit? Are you thinking about that as you're directing?
I think it just kind of happens naturally. I think the relationship between you and we have video directors and TDs, and so the video director is calling while the TD is cutting, and so I think that they just kind of figure that relationship out. Where a lot of times the video director calls something and they'll cut on the beat, or they'll wait a half measure after to cut, and so I think it just is that dynamic there. I think cutting on the beat is cool and tasteful sometimes, but I think being able to change it up instead of just cutting on the same exact downbeat every single time. So I think that there's a tastefulness to it, if you will.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's also a right or wrong. Like I think if you're cutting on the beat, like cut to the beat and make it fun and make it, intentional. I think you could tell if a cut is intentional or not.
Right.
But yeah, so that's what I would say. But no, the cameras look fantastic in your stream. You guys have I would say you have the tools that you need. It just comes down to, all right, what time am I going to spend training? What do I want this person to do? Where does this person need to grow? Because also I know too, you've got different levels of talent or experience with different volunteers too. And so that can be a factor that you just kind of weigh in and all that. But I don't know. I think the conversation is always fun to have with people. I always get excited about training just because it's fun to see people, that light bulb go off in people of like, oh, okay, this is what you want. Oh, okay, this is how I can do this. I think for me that's always just kind of like a little bit of an internal reward, if you will, when it comes to training. But
that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the thoughts. I know it's weird to give me on the spot feedback. It's like the vocalist that is trying out for the worship team in front of you, and they're like, did I make it? And you're like, do I be Simon Cowell right now, or am I like, nah, dog? Like,
yeah. No, dude, it's so funny. It's so true. I mean, you nailed it on the head a bit too. Like, I think if I wasn't able to give you a bit of feedback, there would be something wrong in me. Of like, I would question, why am I doing what I'm doing? Because in a way, you started this whole thing and said, hey, iron sharpens iron. So at the end of the day, if I wasn't able to give you a single piece of thing to work on, then I'd be almost probably more concerned about hurting your feelings than getting better. And I think that that's like the dynamic we all have to live in, is like, hey, getting better does require you to let go of your ego. It requires you to be willing to be coached, to be trained, but then also to coach and train, right? So I think it's just a perspective that, like, for me, it starts with your relationship with Jesus and who God has made you to be, but then too, like, he's created us for so much in our lives, right? And so I think that if we're able to view our lives through that lens, then feedback, candor, all those kind of things become so much more easier to receive and to give, especially with the right people.
Dude, I think that is such an important conversation for the tech community. Us as leaders, we build these systems and these little kingdoms, of like, we feel so proud. It's like, we're artists, and like, artists they don't like hearing feedback always about their personal creation, but like, having that high feedback culture is only going to make us better. And finding what I found is like finding the right people to give me the feedback that are trusted, that I can respect what they're saying, and that they know, like, they have freedom to tell me whatever they want to tell me is invaluable. So I would just encourage you guys that are watching this today, if you're at a smaller church and maybe you're like a one-man band, and then somebody comes up to you and complains about something, and you're just like, well, I'm doing this by myself. Well, receive it with the right heart if you can.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, for sure.
Steven, dude, I want to just say thank you. Like, this was amazing. Great thoughts. Like, so much good stuff. And you guys in the live stream, it's not over. We got another hour coming where you'll just get to hear me kind of rant and give you my thoughts on your live streams, because we got about 25 more in the can. So we're going to race through. All right, man. Well, you guys give some love to Steven in the chat today, and I'm going to let him go off the live stream. So keep up the great work. I always end all of my videos by saying we can do a lot of great things. Let's do it all for God's glory. And I hear that in your heart, man. So I really appreciate you.
Cool. Thanks so much, man. Appreciate you having me on.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
Yep.
Seriously, guys, how good was that? That was just great thoughts there. And I love to hear Steven's heart there behind what it is that we're doing as tech directors, as worship leaders. I have that on our back wall for all of my tech team to see. You are a worship leader. It's kind of an homage to The Office, It Is Your Birthday, if you know what I'm talking about. But we're worship leaders, and we have to think about our craft that way. And how are we helping our church engage? How are we helping the online community of whatever our church is engage in worship? And we get to play a really big part in that, and it's so cool. So again, give me a little comment below in the chat saying thanks to Steven. We're going to take just like 3 or 4 minutes here, and I'm going to get a drink of water, and then we'll be back for hour number 2. All right, here we go. See you in a little bit. All right, guys, I'm back. Hour number 2. Here we go. We got some live stream reviews coming up. We're going to talk about whatever you want to talk about. If you got some questions for me, you want to chat about any new technology things, camera questions, lighting questions, whatever you got there rolling around in your brain you want to chat about, drop it in the chat as well. We've got some 25 different reviews to look at here, but you can always hit up that fastpass super chat. I'm not above being bought. Remember, for $10, for one easy payment of $10, you can jump to the front of the line and get your live stream reviewed. The link is in the description to get that live stream submitted. And we've got quite a few great ones that have been submitted. Honestly, I'd say most of the time that I watch these, I'm like, what do I tell y'all that would help you actually make this much better? Because so many of you guys have spent a lot of time really dialing in your live stream. So great job. But what else has been going on? In the tech world in the last month, there's been some things that have happened for sure. Big conferences, or whatever you want to call them, expos, where companies have released new technology. And one that definitely excited me was the Panasonic Lumix GH7. And I'm not excited about the GH7 to buy it necessarily, even though I am a big Micro Four Thirds fan, going back to the GH4, GH5, GH5S. I did not pick up a GH6, but the GH7 for $2,200 looks to be a great camera. It's kind of like a G9 Mark II, but video centric with the phase detect autofocus and all those things. I mean, I've got quite the lens collection of Micro Four Thirds lenses that we utilize, and so that's why it is definitely interesting to me. But the most interesting thing for me is like, what will this do to the price of the GH5? Because I still love the GH5. It's a solid camera for most churches that are needing to get that more cinematic look on a budget. I mean, GH5 2 is, let's just see, it's probably like $1,100 if they're even selling it anymore. You can't pick up a GH5 anymore. So yeah, $1,200. You know, it's a great cam for that amount of money. Speaking of cameras though, did any of you guys pick up the deal that I posted about over on the community tab a few weeks ago? We had the 6K was at $1,600, and everybody, I think sometimes I'm like, is that actually on sale? You know, because you don't keep track of things. But I was like, it actually is. It was $1,000 off. You know, I think it's something to do with the Pixis coming out, maybe. Let's see how much the Pixis is. Yeah, the Pixis is $29.95. And that more box cam style thing that they've come out with, which I don't think we'll be going with. So maybe that's why the price was down. So I was just curious if any of you guys picked up one of those. Let's see if I can get back over here to my chat. Yeah, there's some good comments on here. Brian, man, amazing info and insight. John, he has the energy of an 8-year-old and the wisdom of a 55-year-old. Shep, you can put that in your Instagram bio. I like that quote. That's good. And John, yeah, you're welcome, man. It was great. Honestly, it's a very selfish thing that I love. I get to share with you guys. That's one of the benefits that has happened of this YouTube channel is that people like Steven that have are in the they're professionals, right? And we can glean a lot of wisdom from them in whatever setting that they're working in. And I've been able to, you know, coax them into coming on here. And honestly, they're just great guys. None of them get paid to do any of this. They're just giving of their time, their talent, and I appreciate them. And so instead of me just hoarding a call with them, I get to share it with everybody, and hopefully it makes our whole worship media tech community better because of it. So there's some other tech things that have been happening out there. I saw some stuff about Resi doing some different stuff. Maybe they have a cheaper encoder. Am I crazy? Has that been in the last month? I feel like it's like $600 if you're a Resi person. Yeah, the single channel encoder, $700. You know, I'm not a Resi person, so I don't know. The subscription is just too expensive for our church. We wouldn't go that route. But I know when I did that survey on my community tab, let's go back and look at that. Oh, I pasted. I don't know how to work a computer, guys. When we did this poll, what do you use to encode your live stream, and are you happy with it? 38% of you, of the 370 votes, are using just like your ATEM or a web presenter, which is what I'm doing currently right now. Like I'm just using the ATEM Extreme, and it's just on air. It's just going straight out to YouTube with the YouTube API. I'm not going to Facebook or our website or anything like that. I mean, this is just for this live stream. We're using a web presenter currently in our workflow in there. After I restarted our Dream Machine, all problems were fixed. I spent a month trying to figure out what was going on. I just had to update the firmware again. I updated the firmware and it broke everything. So then I just had to update the firmware to the newest. And now everything's working again. Cross my fingers. Sunday to Sunday. We've had 2 good Sundays in a row without any caching or anything like that. But if I go back to our poll, 19% of you are using Resi, which surprised me. 5% box cast, and then a big portion of you just using software like OBS. I saw a lot of people using vMix, which I think vMix is Windows only, right, guys? I'm pretty sure. So we don't have, like, I had to do some work on a upcoming product review, and part of the process required a Windows machine, and I'm like, I don't even have a Windows machine. So I had to go to the secretaries and borrow a laptop that was Windows, and I'm like, where's the start button? It's been 15 years since I've been on a Windows. Yeah. Well, hey there, Dudley, here from Harare, Zimbabwe in Africa. Thanks for hopping on the live stream today, man. That's great. But yeah, there's a good percentage of you guys using Blackmagic and software, but also a decent percentage using Resi. So I just thought that new streaming device was interesting. And then ProPresenter, finally, I think it's been, 3 months or so since the last update, which I'm okay with because it's been stable. Has it been stable for you guys? They did come out with a little patch. I didn't even bother installing it. It's one of those deals like, if it's not broken, don't fix it, right? So, but I'm curious, like, when's the next thing gonna drop from ProPresenter? What's the next update? When are they gonna be able to live AI mix your audio for your live stream through ProPresenter? You know, things that we don't necessarily need. But I mean, I guess that would be cool. You guys see any other things that were interesting to you? Drop them in the chat. Any comments, any questions, let me know. Or just something you want to chat about. That would be fun as well. Let's stop my recording over here. Good job. I did not hit the off-air button. I almost did. That would have been bad. All right. Well, let me get set up here for our first live stream review. I will pull in our first submission. We're just going in order today. Like whoever submitted first a couple weeks ago whenever I posted this. And that is Zach Wright with Family Church. He says that they are using an ATEM Studio HD, Old Faithful, and then Blackmagic Pocket 4K cameras. Wants help with shot framing, sequencing, how to adjust shots to kind of have a more cinematic feel and be more engaging. The audio is being mixed in LPX via Dante from front of house console Behringer Wing. What is LPX? Does anybody know what LPX is? Yeah, I'm not familiar. Maybe I just don't know that abbreviation. But let's pull it up over here. Let's see. Again, this is Family Church. And here we go. So first of all, the first thing I noticed was like, is it just me or the mix really loud? Let me go back over here to where I can see these. Family Church. First of all, I really like a lot of the shots that you're getting. I like that you're giving some context with these wide shots in and out of the song. I like this shot a lot, where it's this medium shot, but it's got some good smooth movement to it, showing the whole worship team. That's a good shot, and lighting looks great on that. Audio wise, it seemed like, I don't know, like as soon as I turned it up, I was like, something seems different, like the stereo field or something. And then the high sibilant stuff at the very top, maybe that's what's becoming harsh. Listen a little bit more. I like that drum machine. It almost seems like it's like everything's widened and there's nothing in the center channel. Not everything, but like her vocal even. Like, just for reference, let's go back and listen to
YouTube on your phone, on your laptop, whatever.
So we said we like that. And then here.
Kings and Lord of Lords, you're the one we came here for, and we worship you. We worship you. King of Kings and Lord of Lords.
Yeah.
You're the one our hearts adore, and we worship you.
So I really like these handheld shots, shooting through the crowd. It's always tough unless you're a tall person, if it's a short person on stage like that, to balance like height of people blocking the singer too much and then them being in the lower part of the shot. Again, you're using kind of that like cinematic type cutoff box thing that we're using as well, and just make sure you're double checking framing on those locked off shots for that. That looks great right there. I like how you're not worried about the bass player's head being cut off. Seriously. Good shot of your guitarist there. Drummer is very blue. We got Smurf drums going on. That's okay, you know. At least there's some light in there. That's always tough, lighting drum cages. But yeah, key light on them looks great. To me, white balance looks good. I wish there was a little bit of white light in here and not just blue LED, but that's okay. It matches your vibe of your whole stage, I guess. I do wish the room was maybe a little bit brighter with color, or it's not just total silhouettes. Your team's talented though. Like musically. Yeah. I mean, honestly, if it were me and I was mixing in a box with Logic, the first thing I would do is just download somebody's template. And maybe you've already done that, like Luke Hendrickson's or somebody else's, and just kind of do it on a rehearsal and then compare to what you've already got. So we don't mix in a box, so I can't give you like, use this plugin, you know, this Waves, whatever, we'll fix that. No, sorry, I don't know. So appreciate you guys in the chat that know some stuff about that. But Family Church, keep it up. All right, let's move on to our next one. Let me close that. Ooh, what time is it? 11:30. We got 30 minutes, guys. All right, so I'm going to start going a little quicker through these, all right? Let's see who we have next up. Number 2. Loading response. There we go. We have Fresh Church from Jordan submitted. Will Jordan. Sorry, that's like people calling me Russell. That's my last name. It's okay, though. Panasonic XA25s, Lumix GH52, Alphatron 20X, don't judge me. I don't know what that is. What's an Alphatron? Anybody know what an Alphatron is? Hold on, we're just going to Google Alphatron real quick after I get this set up, because now I'm curious what that is when he says don't judge me. Let's look at Alphatron camera. Oh, okay. I mean, why would I judge you? Oh, because it's a PTZ, and you know I don't love PTZs. $1,700 though. You could get a really nice camera for $1,700, man. I mean, like I said, that S5 II that I've got over there was $1,400 used. So it's just like, do we need the PTZ? Like, why do we have to have it? I mean, if you got it, you're going to use it though. So let's see, audio wise, he said questions on specific stuff. Just need to know if it sucks or not. Tell me. Let's see, X32 rack for live stream. House is X32. Okay, cool. Where'd my mouse go? There we go. Let's give it a listen and a look. See.
Mystery. I raise a hallelujah. Feel you lost your hold on me. I'm gonna sing in the middle of a storm. Louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is defeated, the King is alive. We're gonna sing a little louder, sing a little louder.
Awesome. All right, Will, thanks for submitting this. First of all, I want to say it looks like you're using electronic drums over there, but I thought that the tom and snare sounds were pretty good, especially the toms. So good job on dialing those in. I thought that sounded great. Sounds like your bass player's getting after it back there. I love that. I didn't really hear much tracks. Like, we've done this song so many times, I just am expecting to hear the certain things that are in the tracks. So I'm curious, Will, if you're using tracks, if you are, pump those up a little bit in the mix. One thing we struggle with is, like, which you do have a dedicated mixer, so panning your lead vocal, it sounded like the lead vocal was panned one way or the other, instead of just being centered. If you have a dedicated mixer that can make sure they're down the center when they're leading, and then next leader, like, change that up, maybe with scenes or like a cue list on the X32, song per song or something like that. Stylistically, for me, like, we've hung on this shot for quite a while. There you go. You've gone to the wide now. I just was noticing, which I like the light design there where it dropped out. Seemed like, though, we're just doing a lot of flash and trash with the lights, that I would just maybe dial back a tiny bit. I'm not seeing all the gobos and stuff now. That's I don't mind that as much. At least it's going from, like, just purple to a teal, which is totally fine. It doesn't look like you're using any haze, so you're using your scenic stuff to kind of give that lighting design, which is great. Let's listen just a little bit more, watch just a little bit more. Again, I'm a fan of that medium shot from the side here showing the full band. That's pretty cool. It might lower the headroom just a little bit. Now, when he's up at the mic, it might need to be... okay. That's why you had to do it. Okay. Very good. Let's move on. Fresh Church, thanks for submitting. I really appreciate it. The chat has gone quiet. Where are you at, friends? There's 44 of you on here. Help me out. I've been on here for an hour and a half, and my mind is turning to mush. Let's go to our next live stream review. We have Crossroads Christian Church. Heber submitted this, and they're rocking Pocket 6Ks. Ursa 4.6Ks. Thanks. You're still here. Good. Appreciate you. All feedback is welcome. That's great. Stereo Matrix mix off the Midas Pro 2. Some channels are pre-fade, some channels are post-fade, and that's how we live our life around here as well. So let's pull up this one here. I need a producer that does this for me. All right, here we go.
Una voz Crossroads, declaramos gloria a Dios, amén, amén.
Hoy cantamos como hermanos.
First off, I'm really liking the color profile. You dialed it in on those 6Ks. That LUT. It's kind of like that, what do they call them? Buttery LUTs. It's tasty on the skin tones and everything. It looks good.
No escucharé mi mirada.
I feel like your electric guitar's really panned way far. I wouldn't pan it that far. Like piano's over here, guitar's over here. It's like maybe just bring it back just a little. Lyrics can be a little hard to read on that white wall. It's a good shot of your guitars there. I wonder if that's a slider or if that's a roamer. It's a slider.
Vamos, cantamos Cristo, el que salva. Cristo, el que salva.
I like the verb.
La esperanza está en él.
I just wish we had a different shot of that lead singer every once in a while from the side or something. Now start picking up the pace a little bit on your cuts. That's what I would do. Like as the song vibe picks up, pace yourself faster. There we go. Love that. Bringing some energy now. Where's my drums at? Come on, go to the drums for the big fill. Here it comes. Drums. A little late, but that's okay. I like that shot. Going up to the face where you can see him, that's cool. Honestly, you guys are doing a great job. I don't know what to tell you. I spouted off some things just spur of the moment as we were going there. So hopefully you found that helpful. Full of help. That's me, Ryland. I'm so lonely now that Steven's gone. It's just me. Would you guys like it if my tech director, Brett, came on the live stream for the second hour? We were brainstorming about that this morning. I think it would be fun. Have him here in the office with me and we can chat back and forth so it's not just me the whole time. All right, let's look at Bridge Ministry Church. This is Ricardo. They are running Canon camcorders, XA55s, 35s, XA30, and one Blackmagic 4K. So we'll see. Let's see if we can peg immediately when the 4K is the camera. That's always interesting to me. So They have one guy running the audio remotely through Logic Pro plus plugins. Remote audio mixer is in Brazil, and they are in California. That is interesting. I'm wondering, is that, we've talked about it some in the previous live streams with people. It's becoming accessible for sure. And if it solves the problem of not being able to have qualified mixers in the room, maybe you just don't have that in your church. Like, let's see how this thing sounds. So again, this is Bridge Ministry Church. Okay. Bye. Here we go. Seems a lot quieter. Yeah, usually this is like -6, -5, I feel like. So maybe the overall loudness could be a little bit louder. Oh, crap. I want more of his vocal in the mix. A little bit more clarity. Sounds like he's got that richness in the deep stuff, but needs a little more in the upper end of the EQ spectrum. Saw some shake there in the camera, possibly from kick drum. It seems a little dark, possibly. I like the movement that you're going for there. Try to be a little more intentional with it. It's a struggle when you're zooming, is that banding, that's the moire from your camcorders. All right, let's listen to these drums a little bit. Jerry, would you run your loop tracks, aux tracks in stereo as this plays? Yes. Let me just tell you, we ran mono for 14 years. And in the last 2 months or so, we've switched to stereo. And wow, it definitely opens up your mix a lot more. I feel like the tracks are able to come through the mix more and not step on top of other things. So I'm surprised I can't peg which one of these cameras is the Pocket 4K. My guess would be that one on stage. Let's see if he's handling. Yeah, I think he is over there. See, the problem with... No, it looked like a camcorder, actually. Oh, well, this guy's on a different side of the stage. Oh, yeah, there's the camcorder. I wouldn't do shots like that, where you can see him like right behind people. At least he's kind of in the shadows back there, but still. This one this shot right there feels like framing is weird. Like we got all this extra headroom up here that we don't necessarily need. So I would bring that lower. Okay. I like these shots through the crowd. That's really good. Side profile down the line, that's great. Just, you know, with a camcorder, you should not be losing focus. And I saw that a few times. So just triple check your focus stuff. Here's a drum shot. It's tight quarters in there, making it work. You got some talented musicians, man. Let's go. You got to listen to the end. The snare is a little gunshotty to me. Like I wish I could hear more snare wires. And they're getting after it. That bass player too. Yeah, like, okay. This shot right here. You know, this cameraman in the middle of the stage with a camcorder, I wouldn't do it. You got zoom, 20x zoom on that thing, optical. So utilize that. Like, you don't have to be wide on it. Like, you could be out of the way, over off to the side or on this front row. But that's just a church culture thing, I guess. For me, we would try to stay away from that. It just feels like I'm like, what's that guy doing? So, anyways. But thank you, Bridge Ministry, for submitting. I appreciate that a lot. All right, we're moving on to the next one. Christ Chapel. Mark Griffith, thanks for submitting. You got Pocket 6K and 4 of the 4K camcorders. They're Pocket Cinema cameras. They're not camcorders. No, that's fine. It says our volunteer team is on or off. Got a couple camera trainings, video trainings. Have a lot to improve on. Any thoughts, takeaways? They originally had a separate broadcast mix set up with Alan and Heath Avantis. Except it was a volunteer thing. So now they're taking the front house mix, going through some buses, and then going to Boxcast. No waves or DAWs, just straight into it. So let's pull it up over here. Overexposed on her skin tones. That's tough there. I talked earlier about on LakePoints, it seemed like there was some chromatic stuff or fringing around people. I actually think it's just my TV I'm watching on, because when I look over at this monitor over here, it's not there. So scratch that, LakePoint. Sorry. Got the tambourine. I didn't notice you had a choir until now. I like how legible your lyrics are. That drum shot doesn't do much for me. You can't really see what he's hitting. It's a little too tight. Band's getting it though. I love how simple, like, your design for your stage stuff is very simple, but it's working well in your camera shots, like this shot right there. That big cyc behind everybody looks really good, and you got a big stage to work with, but yeah, it's looking really good. Yeah, I wish that this wide shot was maybe just used like beginning and end of songs, and that you had a different kind of like 3/4 shot, like not totally wide, but with some movement. So I think one thing that could take it to the next level is having a wireless roamer going throughout your sanctuary and getting different shots. Right now it feels very like camcorders on sticks kind of thing. So that would probably help you a lot. It looks like you got some great backline musicians. Choir, I haven't seen anything of choir. You got a guy over here on like a Leslie or piano of some sort. Haven't really seen organ stuff. And I've only watched a minute and a half of your live stream, so take that with a grain of salt. But I think you're doing a good job, man. I try to balance those skin tones between everybody so you're not overexposing, is really what I'm talking about, exposure of skin tones. So, all right, thank you for submitting that. How's everybody doing? Is it about time to get some lunch? Are you watching during lunch? That's me. Can you eat without watching YouTube? It's tough for me. If so, what are you eating today? Of course, if you're in Germany or Africa, it's definitely not lunchtime. You're gonna go get some chapati or a Rolex for my brother in Africa. When I was in Uganda, that was a big thing for sure. Got to have that Rolex, not the watch, the bread. Let's go to our next one here. Oh, speaking of Africa, Watoto Church. If I'm remembering correctly, that is Watoto in Uganda. I got to visit Watoto. They have like a children's choir that's kind of world renowned, but we got to go to a service there, and I was like highly impressed. And this was like 4 months before I started my YouTube channel, and I was like, if I would have known, I would have tried to get like a tech tour, because it's very interesting, you know, doing touring other cultures, churches and stuff. And they're using Pro Tools from Dante, and just want some tips on how to make it sound even better. Let's pull it up and see here. I like the chapters. Thank you.
Good morning to you all. Welcome to church. So
Let's bring
good
it back
to
memories.
see you. Come on, put your hands
I was
together.
in the
Come
balcony.
on. The joy of the Lord is our strength. Amen.
There comes that reverb.
Sing, oh, oh, oh. Let's sing together.
Ooh, that looks good.
This is the day you made, so I'll rejoice and be glad, rejoice and be glad in it. Woo! This is where I believe
I like the
you
energy.
are more than enough for me. You are faithful to your promise. You are strong when I am weak. When I'm standing in your presence, I have everything I need. The joy of the Lord, the joy of the Lord is my strength. Declare it, say, the joy of the Lord, the joy of the Lord.
I love it, Watoto. You got it going on. Let's see, what advice can we give them? I think I've been in y'all's space, and I know how engaged the congregation is. Like, that was one thing that left an impression on me. And so if you can dial in a little more of that audience, which we're on a very hype song, so that's always hard. So maybe if we fast forward to like a more chill moment, let's see if we can hear the congregation.
Seen you with life within, so I pour out my praise again. You're worthy, God, you're worthy of all of it. Your promises never fail. I've got stories
Ooh, the lights
that
look
live
awesome.
to tell. So I
Those pixel sticks look like light rays coming out from that screen.
pour out my praise again. You're worthy, God, you're worthy of all of it.
Okay, yeah, they're there for sure.
Great is your faithfulness to me.
I'm getting chills, man.
Great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun to the setting, same I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to. Come on, just declare his faithfulness. Great is your faithfulness.
Lights sweeping up at the right moment.
Great is your faithfulness.
I think the vocals maybe are a little dry. Like, I could see a little more compression, a little more verb to just kind of glue those vocals together. It's like, it seems like I'm hearing too much individual voices, if that makes sense, when they're all together.
We've seen you provide. We've seen you sustain. We've seen you show us love. We've seen you heal. We've seen you protect. We put our faith in you, God. For your word says that you're not a man that you should lie, and you never go back on your word. We choose to trust you. We choose to lean on you. Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down.
Great
Come on,
vocal.
declare it. I put my faith in Jesus. There is no one like him. My anchor to the ground. You can lean on him. My hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down.
Good job, Cam off.
Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let I put
Now they're getting
my
it.
faith in Jesus. He will never let my anchor to the ground, my hope and
Love that bass line.
foundation. He'll never let
Hold on. I love that your cam op knew he was going to hit that bass line. We got to go back. We got to go back here. Here it comes. Let's go. Yeah, this is Watoto Church in, if I'm not mistaken, in Kampala, in Uganda. So one thing I'm noticing here, let's talk about those cameramen. So we got this shot of the bass player coming back and forth here. He's over there in front of the drums. But when we go to the wider shot, so there's a tight of him. And when we go to the wide shot, I'm having trouble finding that cam op. So they're doing a good job of disguising their cam ops between switches. Love that shot with the lighting coming. Man, I love those shots. One of these days we're going to get to where we can do those. It's just a culture thing of having... But see, that's the thing, is I'm not seeing their camera guys, so they're doing a good job of kind of finding those spots on their stage where they can hide. Okay, I see them right there. So they got that table there. Yeah. I will say the only thing is this cable cam is a little unsteady sometimes, so I'm not sure what gimbal you got going on there, but it can be a little, like it's not level right here, and that just seems a little odd to me. But yeah, that's great, man. Great job. Thank you for submitting. That was fun. It's kind of a trip down memory lane right there. Watch it not even be the same church. No, that way it was. It was. Oh, you know what, guys? It's 12 o'clock on the dot, which means it's time for Ryland to shut down the live stream. And, well, it's 12 o'clock here. I don't know where it is, what it is where you're at, but got some great stuff planned on the channel coming up. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe right now. Hit that button. Hit the like button because we got some great videos coming up. I filmed one yesterday, a special review. Well, not special, it's just a review of some LED Lecos that I've been messing with. Are they a good solution for churches? I know for me, I'm on the hunt for LED ellipsoidals. They're so expensive, and maybe these are a good option. Going to film another video tonight of some more equipment out at a gig here in town. That will be fun, get to do that. I've got a video coming up about how how we introduce new music at our church and kind of what my system is that I've implemented here and what works for us. So hopefully you worship guys that are do-it-all worship leaders like myself, maybe that would be helpful. Got an upcoming vlog that I'll be shooting, that the topic is going to be about nostalgia in worship. Is it a good thing? Can it be a detriment? How does that affect our churches? Nostalgia. It's a real thing. So that came about because I got out some of my mini DV tapes from my old camcorder and was watching them, and brought back some memories, you know? So we'll talk more about that. So lots of fun stuff on the channel to come. Appreciate all of y'all that have subscribed. It's hard to believe we're almost to 16,000 subs. And I really do appreciate and am humbled that you would give me any time. Like, I'm just a guy doing ministry here in Owasso, Oklahoma. Decided to start capturing it to try and document the journey, but also help out anybody that it might be able to help. So appreciate you guys. So remember, we can do a lot of great things, right? But we got to do it all for God's glory. All right, we will see you guys in the next one. Hit that like button and subscribe for more content. We'll see you next time.